All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
That is so funny.
That's staying in the podcast. Yep. Well, welcome back to the Between the Frames podcast, where we say dumb shit and have stupid inside jokes.
Yes, which no one understands because we barely explain any of our inside jokes.
Yeah.
We just say them.
They just exist.
It gets to a point where we have so many inside jokes that we barely even speak English anymore. We just speak in like jokes.
Yeah.
So like
it's its own language.
We'll go out for dinner with like some new people we meet and we'll just like be fucking around the whole time. These people will just be looking at us like so confused because they're like, what are these guys? What are they saying?
It's like, what are these sayings that they're coming up with? Like the fuck?
They're all in jokes. Like each sentence after one another is a joke. Like
Legit.
It's actually bad. Like we actually need to broaden our vocabulary. Like I'm not like I say it as a joke in part, but actually like I noticed like for a period of time I wasn't like meeting new people. I was literally just hanging out with you boys. And then when I went to go speak to new people, I was like, wait, how the fuck do you have a conversation again? Because all we talk about is like we just make weird noises, laugh and go like, yeah.
Legit, that is literally half our conversations.
Yeah. And then I was like, I met someone, you know, like, what do you do? Do you like, what do you talk about? What do you actually talk
What
about?
are you talking about?
No, I was
The
like,
weather?
please don't make a weird noise. Please don't make it. Like you're just trying to hold back.
Yeah, please don't say something stupid, brain. Please.
That's
that
pretty
happens all
funny.
the
So
time.
how did you figure it out then?
Like how to have
How did
normal
you figure
convo?
out? Because
Oh,
yeah.
how did you figure it out? Because we haven't.
I'm still figuring it
Yeah.
out.
I'm still figuring it out. As well.
Well, I think
What's your secret?
it's just good to not make weird noises, and then that usually helps.
That's true.
No.
So
Oh,
one,
fuck.
silence yourself from weird noises. 2, what's your second
For
advice?
3 tips for having
3
conversations.
tips
Yeah.
for having
With
conversations.
the new person.
With a new person who's not like doesn't know all your inside jokes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Be genuinely interested in what they're saying. So like, you know, learn to just bite your own tongue and don't say anything. Just actually listen to what someone else is saying.
Yep.
And then third, maybe doing an activity that's like fun. Like it might be like going to a party or an event or something that you can like
Relate
actually,
to.
like you're both doing something together, so you can like easily just talk about it instead of like sometimes when you just go to a bar, it's just like, you like weather?
yeah, legit. That's
Which
true.
is an in joke, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
that is another
That is
intro.
what I mean.
Yeah.
No, okay, that reminds me. Like, this is why we need Chris. I think this podcast, like this topic specifically, would be perfect for Chris to hop on. Sometimes I think like when I'm in conversation and I feel the conversation dying with someone, I ask myself, what would Chris do? What would CK do? Because if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Chris is like one of the best conversationalists, most optimistic. Yeah, I got it right.
Yeah,
I did get it
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I thought I got it right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he is one of the most like easiest people to speak to. He's always interested in everything. I actually only think we saw him once on that whole Euro trip where we were absolutely wrecked by the end of our trip because we had just like driven 3,000 Ks back home, where like this was the only time I actually saw him tired.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Like, it is
That's
amazing.
true. That man never runs out of energy.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You could literally have like a 10-hour conversation with a fucking ant.
Yeah.
Legit. Well, actually, I was in a conversation once and I asked myself, like, I felt the conversation dying. So I was like, what would CK do? And so I pulled this immaculate question out of my ass somehow.
Right.
I was talking to Faye's parents actually about the difference between some German words and Dutch words. And there was the German word for leg or whatever is like, there's a lot of similarities in their language, but apparently I'm pretty sure this is what we were talking about. Like the word for leg was completely different from like Dutch to German. And I was like, what's CK question here? Like there's like,
Yeah.
anyway, so I was like, which, do you think the Germans like made it up first or the Dutch? Like who came first? And
that was
it
like a
struck
massive
them.
debate.
Like,
Yeah.
it started a massive debate and then I could like sit back for a bit and listen. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, sweet, got the conversation going again.
Yeah,
No one
continued
teaches
flow.
you. No one teaches you how to have a convo.
True.
You just,
Like you just have to pick it up.
yeah, just something you learn along the way is you just grow, right? Person.
Like, there's a couple of things in life that you should definitely get taught.
Filling up your car, okay? You should definitely get taught how to do that. Your tax.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Taxes. Like,
Tax?
bro, I still barely even know how to fucking do
What
taxes.
the fuck? The more I learn about it, the more confusing it is.
I know.
And having a conversation. Like, you're just expected to rock up to school and it's like, go out and play. And it's like, so.
Do you like weather?
Yeah,
My mummy told me to ask you if you like weather.
By the way, this reference, if you've ever, this voice that we do is from this TV show called Smiling Friends. It's like it is an Adult Swim cartoon, but it's like an adult cartoon. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And there's this one character called a shrimp. His name's Shrimp, right?
His name is
Shrimp.
Shrimp.
Shrimp. And he's like got this funny accent and he's like very nerdy guy. And like kind of the guy who like plays video games. And when you open the blinds to let natural light in, he just freaks out.
Yeah.
But he's like, what's a game called? Mouse Quest?
Mouse Quest.
I am at level 9,44344 of Mouse Quest.
He's just got a real funny aura to him. So we like bring him into our everyday life as well.
Yeah.
Every now and again, he pops out. Bit of shrimp comes out.
That's the backstory of that voice.
In case you hear it in other podcasts, now you know why. So
that's where that voice comes from. It's pretty funny.
So anyway, Mr. Adjudicator, Limon Fan,
Adjudicator.
what have you got in store for us for this podcast?
Nothing too hectic, but I was sort of thinking because yesterday actually, because you wanted me to come with you to YTG.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, I was just fucking ruined the day before.
Yeah,
So I was like so tired from filming a video, and then so I was like thinking like, I don't think we've actually spoken much about like all of our sort of experiences that we had with cars. Like even at back in the day when we used to work.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say the name of the place or
We can say whatever we want, bro. It's our podcast.
yeah, but I think fuck it. Yeah. So like back in the day, because we all used to work for Duns, right?
Yeah.
Like you used to take photos. I did some graphic design stuff, and Liam worked in the wholesale area, and we definitely like, especially as well because that was probably when we were like 17 to
Like 19
or 20.
Yeah.
So those are some very influential times in terms of like us growing up and like experiencing like the real world, right? So I thought it would be fun to sort of reminisce back on those days and
That's a
see
great
if we
idea.
can pull out any funny stories from that time.
For sure.
So, like that's what I was thinking of doing.
I think one of the biggest things I learned working there was that like don't complain about something if you don't have a solution to fix it. I think that was the biggest thing I learned working at the car dealership, because it wasn't just like you didn't just have one job. Like I wasn't just the photographer, you weren't the website guy, and you weren't the car mover. Like everyone had to be like molded to that business to be like any and every job. Like if you got told to be the general manager tomorrow, you would have to be the general manager.
You would have to do it, yeah.
Like, it was the kind of job it was. Like it wasn't just very like set in stone, because it was just so high paced and you have to just be like a particular type of person. And it was like the best job, but the hardest job, if that makes sense, because like it has to be, anyway. So like there's a lot of problems you get every day working in that environment. And the biggest thing was like, I got absolutely roasted by one of the bosses one day when I came to him and I was like, oh, I can't do this. And he's like, don't ever fucking come to me again with a problem if you're not even open to talking about a solution. And I was like, oh, fuck. And like, since then, I've literally never like, if I've ever had a problem, I'm always open to like trying to figure out a way. And I actually enjoy it now. It's like a puzzle. It's like that was the biggest thing I learned, was like something school couldn't really teach you, or university, because like the homework is there, or like, you're not really taught how to like think on your own, because you're supposed to like just think within your means, whether it's like in a job or in the real world, you have to really like get creative sometimes with solving problems.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like using your initiative.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
And a bit of common sense and a bit of not common sense. You got to pull a bit of black magic out to make things work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd be like that. But yeah, like that is true. Like, because there's one thing to like just go up to someone and complain and not actually offer any value or offer any solutions. Like, because I understand venting, that's a different aspect, because that's more just like emotional, whatever the fuck.
Of course.
That's like that. But
Doesn't really flow on the
but
workspace though.
That's the thing though. It's not like that's not
That's
what
after
you-
work.
Exactly. That's
To get
after
it
work.
all
You
out.
where you hang out with your
The
friends, your
absolute
family,
trauma from the
loved
day.
ones, all that. You vent and let out all your frustrations about like, and that's like a form of what complaining, right? But when you're in the workplace, like you don't really want to be just complaining because otherwise you're just going to be seen as a person who just complains and doesn't actually offer any value to anyone.
Yeah.
And like, why would you want someone like that in your workplace if they're just constantly complaining and not actually doing any work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's good. It's like you want to be able to see the bright side of every situation, like be optimistic about stuff. Whereas if you're just bringing problems to the table, it's like, dude, this is not helping anyone. Like it actually doesn't do anything good for anyone if you just say, like, for example, at the car dealership, because like the problem for me would have been like, because I had to move all the cars around. Like one time I had to move like 23 cars and like rechange all the positions of them. If I was like, oh, like I can't, like this car's in the way. It's just like,
Doesn't help anyone.
Help. Just like actually use your brain for like a
Go
little
find
bit
the keys. Yeah.
and be like, all right, this car's in the way. What can I actually do? And like, if you genuinely don't know, obviously you ask for help, but it's in an optimistic way, not like a complaining, pessimistic, oh, I don't know, I can't do this. Like just sort of brings a vibe down of the workplace. And you don't want to be around like that low, bad vibes. Like you want good vibes and you want everyone to be working together.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a very good point. Yeah. It would have been so hectic where you were working specifically because it would have been like one thing after another. I remember you would come to the main dealership where we were with like a different, like, dude, you drove like every car under the sun.
Yeah. It
like
was pretty
at
cool.
18.
Yeah. I just got my license. I remember I got my license like, I think a month or two before, right?
Yeah.
Like I got my P's.
Yeah.
And then I got this job randomly after we got back from the America trip.
Yeah.
And I rocked up to work and like, they were just like, oh, can you go register this car? And they just hand me the keys to like this RS5. And I'm like, wait, am I allowed to do this? Like, I don't even know like how quick that
Got no
car,
rego on it as well. Like.
So I'm
It's
just
the
like,
whole point of going and driving it.
yeah, like I remember because like obviously you get the trade plate, which means you can go drive the vehicle wherever you want because you're about to get it registered or it needs work. So this car was unregistered. I'm driving this like, I don't know, $110,000, $120,000 car on my red P's with no plates. And I'm on, I can't remember what road it was, but this highway patrol car just like pulls up beside me in traffic. And I'm like, oh shit, like, I'm done here. Like this does not look good. All right. And then they signaled with their hands, they're like, put your window down. And I put it down. And I'm like, okay, how's it going? Like, oh, this is like in traffic. And then the light goes green. And then like, they're still like talking to me like, what are you doing? There's no plates on the car. And like literally all the traffic's gone and like traffic's going around us. And I hold up this piece of paper and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go get it registered. And then they literally just go, yep, all good. And then they
Just
drive
off.
off.
Oh my God.
I felt like, I was like, yeah, I'm in a video game. This is cool. I'm
Imagine
like,
if you just
main
pulled out
character.
like any random, like a doctor's certificate.
That's
You're
the
like,
thing.
You could have pulled out any piece of paper.
because
They
were
didn't
not
check.
saying, yeah.
They couldn't say. That's the thing I was thinking. I'm like, they didn't even like check it. They were like at least 4 meters away because it was on the other side of me, like the passenger side. So I
Should have
was
just
like,
gunned it.
but then I
Fast
just
enough
like,
to get away.
I was like, sick. This is awesome. Like I just, the
Feel
cops
invincible.
came.
It's one of those points where like you just feel like you can do anything.
Yeah, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong.
No, of
Yeah.
course.
I was just like,
It's just
I
a
felt
funny
like I was.
situation though. It's like, it just feels like one of those situations where like you catch yourself out being like, what the fuck is going on right
Yeah.
now? Like this seems a bit too good to be true sort
Yeah.
of situations. I remember I had a similar situation like that as well. Like where we had to I had to go drive a 993 cab or a 930 turbo cab, like old Porsche, like convertible to the docks because it was getting shipped out from there. And it hadn't been started in like 2 years. And this thing's like sitting there and we like put a jumper pack up to it and it still didn't crank even with a jumper pack. So Manny, the floor manager, he gets a second jumper pack and hooks 2 jumper packs
my
up to
God.
it. It looked so like, if there was like a rule book of things you don't do in life, that would be like the front cover. It's like 2 jumper packs hooked up to like the engine of like the battery of this car or whatever. And then it started. Like he cranked it and actually got it started, and all this like fucking oil and shit came out. And then they were like, they gave me the keys and like, Mikey, you take it to the docks. And I was like, fuck, all right. This thing hasn't been started for 2 years, got no reg on it. I'm awesome, my people. It's just got my license. And if your car's unregistered, you're supposed to take either have the paperwork that you had or take a trade plate. I didn't have either of those things.
Oh God.
Manny, what he did is that we were out of trade plates because there was 2 other cars that had gone out. So he just goes to like the printer and like photocopies a fucking printout. I had an A4 sheet of paper of what the trade plate looked like, but didn't actually have the plate. And he's like, take this. And then I took it and like stuck it to the windscreen with some sticky tape. And the funniest part about it was that the number plate didn't fit in the scanner. So it's like missing like 2 numbers as well. It was so useless. And I'm like, this is like so stupid. It's just not going to work. I put my P plates up, drive out of the dealership, take a right with 2 other cars. And then as soon as I turn right, there's a breathalyzer.
Oh no.
And then like these cops are like waving like the 2 cars in front of me that I went out with. Both of those got pulled over, and then there wasn't enough cops to pull me over. Then I'm like, drive around. The cops look at me. I got the top down. I look at like one of the cops in the eye. They see my printout of my fucking trade plate stuck to my windscreen. And I was like, and I just like drove off because I couldn't hear them say anything. And I felt like one of them yelled at me, but I couldn't hear them because like over the noise of the engine.
Yeah.
And I drove onto the freeway. I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm not sure if I was supposed to pull over then or whatever. I drive onto the freeway entry ramp and the car just dies.
Oh,
and I was like,
no.
oh fuck. I was like, I've probably done something really bad here. I reckon I was supposed to pull over back there. And then I call up Manny. I'm like, Manny, the car's died. I need the jumper pack. And he goes, okay. Comes down with a fucking wide-bodied 458 Ferrari that we just got in. He's got like the jumper pack in there. All these people are sitting there on the freeway entry ramp also trying to go on are watching Manny like drive up, and because the battery on the Ferrari, I'm pretty sure was in the front as well. It's the same as the Porsche. So like he drives this Ferrari like down the entry ramp of the freeway, does a U-turn up the thing and like does nose to nose with this Porsche. Everyone is looking at this wide body Ferrari jumpstart this old Porsche. And then he reverses and like basically, we just drive off and finally get it to the docks. And I was like, that was just like a day in the life of that job. It was just like, just one thing.
It was like organized chaos. So like, although it was
Absolutely.
so all
it
over.
worked. Yeah. So you were saying.
You know, like although it was all over the place, it still was organized all over the place.
Yeah.
Like
there was a lot to do every day. Yeah.
It was more so just like, whatever you had to do, like just figure out a way to do it. Like there was no like, you have to do it like this and this and you're not allowed to do this. It was just very much so use your initiative. I trust you and go out and figure out a way to do it, which is so important because especially like now that, you know, we all sort of have our own business and like trying to run the YouTube channels and sort of more or less doing our own thing.
Yeah.
In that regard and as a creative as well, even if you don't run your own business, just being a creative person, you have to figure out how to get from A to B. Like there's no right way or rule book, but like you have to use your initiative. And it's like,
no one's going to do it for you.
Like if you got a photo shoot coming up with a car, it's like, okay, where's the location? What's the lighting? Like what lens am I going to use? Whose car am I going to get? Like so much you have to figure out. Like, but how do you do that? No one teaches you how to do that. You got to figure it out for yourself.
That's right. And like but the more that you do it, the best way to learn is like being hands-on. I always think it's the best way to learn. Like by fucking up, you make your mistakes, you go out and you figure it out. And like every time that you do that and you just throw yourself in the deep end, you will learn a bunch of shit because you will make a lot of mistakes. But every time you do that, you'll learn, like, depending on how bad the mistake was, never to do that again. Yeah. Like, for example, buying a minivan in Europe, I'll probably get it looked at first because we accidentally bought a rusted minivan that couldn't get registered at all. I got conned into one because we didn't look underneath. So, probably a big learning curve there.
Yeah, it's fine though. It's like we say, we just sort of paid $1,000 for a course on how to not buy a car.
Exactly.
Because we lost
How to not get
$1,000.
scammed,
We
yeah.
lost $1,000 buying this car that was from Vienna, that was in Germany, and we're trying to get it registered into the Netherlands. And obviously, we learned so much through that. We ended up having to sell the car for $1,000 less. But instead of looking at it as like, oh fuck, we just lost $1,000, we both looked at it as like, we just bought an online course called How to Buy a Car in Europe, and it was $1,000.
And there's $1,000
Because
course.
think about how much we learned from that.
Yeah, we did.
learned all the like roadworthy equivalents. Like what was it? Oh, now I forgot the APK.
Yeah, APK.
Like
yeah,
all
I
these
remember.
different things you learn just
RP
by
car.
Yeah.
Any
The
Dutch
RP car, man.
listeners? Yeah, legit.
The gato.
Yeah, we learned so much there. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, you only learn that by throwing yourself in. Like, no one's like, when would you ever? But like, then at the same time, like, when would you ever need to know that? But like, it's just life experience, really. It's just like you can go to Europe and like actually know what you're talking about if you want to go buy a car, you know, over there or whatever. So it's like just things like that. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but when you go and just dive into something you have no idea about, it just helps to throw yourself as far into the deep end as possible and just see if you'll swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only two options.
Yeah,
You're either
exactly.
gonna
Sink or
fucking
swim.
Sink or swim.
Yeah.
There ain't no in between unless you're a fucking
Unless
shark.
you
You're
sink, you sink all the way to the bottom and then buy the online course on how to breathe underwater
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to have not drowned before you
prior
get
to
the
buying
Yeah.
the course. So
It's
yeah.
actually the DLC, the breathe underwater package.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you can finally breathe and then figure out a way to swim back up.
Mm,
That's actually how it works.
that is exactly how it works in life.
Yep.
But
Pay for everything.
Rightio, Between the Frames podcast, everyone. Thanks for listening.
that's all for today's no,
Yeah,
no,
make sure to like, comment, subscribe. No, but yeah, I'm trying to think of like any like dumb stories that came from our time there as well.
Yeah, what are some stories that you have or something funny that you remember?
You know what? The 911, the 993 turbo
Oh yeah,
that
Yep.
we experienced. Yeah, that was fucked.
What happened there?
So basically, I don't even know how we managed to do this. I think Mike somehow like convinced, like with enough like persistence, convinced the general manager of our team to host this event, right? Where we'll all take like one of the cars from the showroom and we'll go drive to a location, hold basically like a mini car meet with like a whole bunch of supercars, and then just drive around the city and then just go back, right?
Oh my
So it
god,
was
it
like
got so out of hand.
it was fucked. So it was basically like a drive day, like a drive event. And yeah, I still can't believe that you actually convinced everyone that we could do it.
That'd
And
be
we
a good idea.
and we actually did it. Yeah.
18-year-old me
Yeah.
convincing everyone that I'm like, yeah, we'll set up a car meet, which is also half photo shoot, and
Yeah.
we'll take all the cars out. We took like 8 cars out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we invited another luxury like car group or
group,
whatever.
yeah.
Anyway, they came down, and then they also told everyone, and we told everyone it was happening. So we had about 300 people like car spotting
Oh,
because
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna bring like all these sick cars out and stuff. And so when we were driving out, there was like 300 people waiting outside the
Yeah.
dealership on like getting us, like all of us getting cars out. And like,
yeah.
there was a good like 50, 60 cars lined up
That was a
outside
lot.
Dutton's.
It
Like,
was sick.
it was wild.
Yeah, it was actually a really cool day. But like going back to like just figuring out which cars we should take, right? And remember back in the day, this was when Mike and I like we didn't like we loved cars, but we didn't really understand the exact like nuance of some of these cars. So like
Yeah.
we didn't really like. I mean, and to be honest, we hated Porsche.
Yeah.
Like we did not like Porsche growing up, but like it's funnily enough now it's like one of our favorite brands.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's because we grew up with like the Cayenne being released, which looks like was like the
Boxster.
ugliest Cayenne
yeah.
ever. The Boxster, like the ugly shape of the Boxster.
Yeah.
Everyone was making fun of the 996.
Yeah,
Like-
906 just looked horrendous compared to all the.
It wasn't even our
previous
fault. Like, we just grew up with a funny time with Porsche.
models. Yeah, yeah. So we grew up with that, just disliking Porsches, and then all of a sudden, they're like trying to figure out, oh, like which cars should we take? Oh, like one of the salesperson took out a Aston Martin. Which one was it? Was it again?
The GT, and then there was a Murcielago, a
Yeah,
manual
yeah.
Murcielago.
That was pretty sick.
675 LT,
Mm.
a 996 GT3 RS,
Yeah.
and the 993 Turbo Porsche that
yeah.
was sitting there.
Yeah. So and the funny thing is because we didn't know much about the 993 Turbo or Porsches in general, because it is an older car. So it's an older Porsche, right? And they were like, yeah. They're like handing out keys. And I was like, yeah, fucking, yeah, salesperson, you take this, you take that. And yeah, Mikey, yeah, you take this one, right? It's an old Porsche. And like, we were looking at like, fuck, I have to drive this shitty old Porsche. God damn it. Like, all right, fucking, I guess we'll cop it, right? It's like, like it's fair enough, whatever. So, you know, put up our red P plates.
So fucked up.
Put up our red P plates, and it's like, oh, it's low on fuel. It's like, yeah, Mikey, just go fucking put some fuel in it, yeah? And then so we're driving to the fuel station, and we're like, we're in the car. It's like, and funny enough, it's green as well. So it just looks very like dated and just
old man
Porsche, right?
Clarence.
Yeah. And I was like, go on, give it some.
Yeah.
And so you finally actually rev it and like actually like push the car, and it fucking it actually shook us.
Like
how fast it was.
Planted my foot. Yeah. And there was like a massive lag for like a second. And then I look at Limon, and then we hear these turbos like start to spool up. I'm like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, legit.
What the fuck is this?
What the fuck?
What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
We get shot back into our seats. My lungs go into my ass.
Yeah.
I'm just like your ass.
You swallow my stomach. Like,
yeah. I'm just in the seat like, what the fuck is going on?
You're like an
what is this
eyeball
car?
going to your ball sack.
my ball sack going to my eyes. Like, they swap positions. I fill up the fuel. And he's got scrotum eyes, and everyone in there is like, "Hey, look at him! He's got scrotum eyes."
Scrotum eyes.
I'm like, no swears.
All right, reeling it back. I'm reeling it back.
Yeah. Reels. Don't get me started on reels, man.
No, TikTok fucking bullshit.
Yeah, so we fill up this car, and then me and Limon start having the best time. And then since that moment, we've needed to know. I was like, we got back, and I was like, I need to know everything about this vehicle. I need to know everything about Porsches.
Yeah.
It's like the sleeper of the supercar, sports car world, is that if you're not into Porsches, it's because like you don't understand enough about the brand and what the car actually represents. And just it's fuck. That was an amazing day.
That was genuinely an experience. Like,
good memory.
Yeah.
A great memory.
All-wheel drive, turbo, lightweight, fast as fuck, manual.
Yeah.
It's just fucking sick.
That is a good story. I feel like, I mean, I obviously wasn't there, but I feel like I could imagine it exactly every time you tell it. I'm like, I can just hear the turbos spooling up.
Yeah. It was just, it was unreal. Yeah. Like the amount of pull on that machine, like literally like fell in love with the car as soon as it happened.
And we started just searching everything Porsche related. We started understanding everything about the brand. And we're like, this is why people love these cars. This is why this car, like Porsche, just exist everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a reason why.
Yeah, 100%. I think from my knowledge of Porsches, like, because I've driven a couple of them now, like through the photo shoots we've done, I think what stands out to me is the design of them, like the actual, it's like a little architecture, like building. Yeah. Like in the same way an architect designs a building, you can really see the attention to detail and the craftsmanship that goes into a Porsche.
Absolutely.
And like, it just got me thinking actually just then, what do you think is like the Porsche equivalent in the camera world?
Leica.
You reckon?
Yeah. Leica or Fuji, I reckon. Because
why is that?
I feel like with a Porsche, like people are pretty quick to hate. I've actually never used a Leica or a Fuji, but I would actually be interested in using some of them at some point, because I feel like those cameras get overlooked pretty easily. Same with like a Porsche would get overlooked. Yeah. But it's like once you experience it, I feel like then you have a better understanding, and then it's like sort of once you see the other side, if that makes sense. So I would love to actually use a Fuji or a Leica at some point, because there is a lot of hype around those cameras, but it's like, why? They don't look like that amazing. Like their specs don't sound that amazing, but it's like, but I'm sure using it, and when you actually take the photos and the look you get from it and just everything like that, like, I'm sure those two like style of cameras would be really interesting to use.
Yeah, I remember I've only briefly used a Fuji once. I can't exactly remember which like model number it was, but I believe the idea behind Fuji is that it has these things called like film recipes or like JPEG recipes. So every time you actually take a photo, it almost automatically applies like a preset or like its own color profile into the photo, and it looks like a film photo that you can even go through and like edit yourself. So it's got like, that's like, I believe that's one of Fuji's main selling points, especially as of recent, because like vintage stuff is coming up more and more. So that's why I've seen like a big resurgence in the way like people have been like jumping on, like I want to get Fuji cameras and stuff, because they do film or take photos in a certain aesthetic that people are gravitating towards nowadays, rather than the old way of photography of like, let's say even back in the day, like 2018, like social media Instagram photography, which was basically dominated by Sony's, I reckon, at the time, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
all like night photos, all that sort of stuff. But nowadays people are moving on to that sort of vintage look that Fuji gives. So I think that's why Fuji is definitely up and coming now. Yeah.
I agree. I've seen a lot of videos about the X100V. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's like the prices have gone up so much since like all this hype.
They're already expensive as well.
Yeah. I think, I don't know how much. I think it's around, I could be completely wrong, but I think it's around 2,000 US for one of them now.
Yeah.
I think also because there was another one, I think Kendall or Kylie Jenner like bought one and started doing like film photography with it. And then everyone's like, oh my God, I want that camera.
Oh my God.
As soon as the Kardashians like do something like related to anything, like people just jump on it. It's crazy.
Imagine if the Kardashians bought our presets. And, oh my God. How much money do you reckon you'd
world
make?
hunger with the money, I reckon.
I reckon you'd make like at least 50 mil if they promoted your product.
Well, I used to shoot the cars for the family that did the sunglasses for the Kardashians. So I shot all their cars, and like they were very well off. Like every like couple of months, the son would come into Dutton's with not only a new car like that he had bought, like he would buy brand new cars from Ferrari or McLaren or whatever, but also come in to buy collector cars as well. Right. And he was like our age.
Yeah.
Like
it's amazing.
18 or 19 or something like that. And
that's
they
crazy.
promote your product.
They were working directly with the Kardashians on their sunglasses line. So it's like, as much as people want to like they love to hate and stuff, but look, man, a business is a business, and that is fucking wild. Like the amount of money they were pulling in would have been just disgusting.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy how like one family, like the Kardashians, brings in so much influence to the world. Like that's actually pretty crazy to think about.
The duck lips, Botox.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast and a whole nother program.
Yes.
Website.
Yeah. I don't know where you're going.
I'm not furthering myself in this conversation.
Let's just not go there anymore.
Not allowing my brain to engage
In that section. What?
So, Mr. Adjudicator, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about on this podcast?
I don't fucking know. I mean, I did want to bring it back to like the Dutton days and just like talk about like any other random stories that we had. Like we definitely have a lot.
I got a random story. That's what you want.
Go for it.
We did the I think it was the Christmas party or the end of financial year party, and we had like a good few months or whatever. Yeah, so we threw a party, and this is like pretty early on where it was still like pretty family owned, and there was like a decent group. I think 30 of us, and I'm not sure if anyone else has done this, but you go up to your mate who has a beer, and you like go and like knock the top of it with the bottom of your beer, and it fizzes up or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to like either scull it so they don't spill it, or spill it all over themselves, and everyone like points and laughs at them.
Yeah,
that's the best. Yeah. So I decided to go do that, and I went up to like one of the salesmen who I was like mates with, and then like did it, but I did it way too hard. I just went like bang and slammed his drink out of his hand, and I would have looked like the biggest dickhead. So we were standing on like the car park, like it's like an indoor car park that you drive up into the dealership. We're on like there, we got lights, we got like a fog machine going on, we got music happening, a DJ's there. And it was almost like a movie scene where like all the music stops and everyone looks at you, because I just looked like I just walked up to him and just fucking slammed his drink out for no reason. But like, do it with like my bottle. His bottle smashes on the ground and he had like a full beer as well. And he looks at me, he's like, Mike, what the fuck? What the fuck was that for? Why did you do that? And I'm like, no, well, I was trying to stand there and explain
He
myself.
tried to justify.
Oh my God.
Thank God the accountant was so drunk that he started like, I don't know, he took everyone looked at me, but he was so drunk, he took all the attention off me basically immediately and started like doing like these weird, dude, like doing it like working at your workplace. Don't get really drunk at your work parties. Like if you have a 9-to-5 job and you get invited to like your work party, your Christmas party, do not get extremely drunk because you work with these people.
Yeah.
So if you get really, really drunk and do something stupid, that is what people are going to think of you when they see you tomorrow or next or after the weekend. All right.
Or forever.
Yeah, well, literally forever because this is the conversation.
Exactly.
So I slammed this bottle. There's glass everywhere. All of a sudden, the accountant comes across, and this dude, like every accountant, clean cut dude, like just every day, just sitting there, like doesn't really speak too much, just does the accounting. He's like necked half a bottle of whiskey or whatever.
Oh, God.
And he's like sort of poured shots for everyone. So he's got a little bit left. He comes out, all of a sudden he's like feeling so good. He's like dancing. He necks the rest of his drink and then he just starts like just dancing real sexy and like grinding on like, I can't remember her name. I'm not going to name drop her, but like one of the other chicks that worked and did the paperwork
my
upstairs
God.
starts, and this dude was like married with kids.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Starts
fucked.
grinding.
Oh no.
that's rough. That's not good.
So, yeah, don't get drunk at your work parties. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Lesson learned.
Not going to name drop everyone,
Holy shit.
but
That is.
do not get drunk at your work parties and do something you regret. He
Yeah.
probably doesn't remember.
Probably not, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
He was just having a great time.
whatever, each their own.
He's
right?
like, you look close enough to my wife. Come here.
Oh, dude, alcohol is.
It's so bad for you,
Oh
man.
man, it's not good.
Like,
It is not good.
yeah, I feel like
I think that was before you guys were working it.
yeah, I
Working there with me.
definitely
That
was
was when
not
I
at that Christmas
started.
party.
No, I was not at the Christmas party. I was not. No, I actually wasn't. I wasn't
No,
even
I wasn't
working
there.
there. That is a brutal story.
There you go.
It
It's pretty
shocked
funny.
my mind.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, that all was happening, and then I ended up going to get a broom and the pan or whatever, while everyone was like yelling at the accountant and getting upset at him. I'm like over there like sweeping up all the glass and shit, just being like, thank fuck no one really saw what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That reminds me of the time where I was transferring files, and
Oh,
Liam comes up
yeah.
to me. I had my SD card
Wait,
reader.
let me explain, right? So we were.
Wait, sorry. I want to hear Mike's story first, and I want to hear the explanation because I think that will
Okay,
be
you reckon?
more interesting. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Because
let me.
he's going to have a certain
Okay, yeah,
perspective
okay,
this
on
is-
it,
this
and
is
then
my
I want you to
perspective.
correct it.
I'm chilling. I'm pretty sure we're in Toronto. I'm chilling on the couch there. I'm just transferring my files after a big photo shoot. And then it's like halfway done. And all I have in this SD card reader, it would have looked like it was empty, but it just has a micro SD in there that I was transferring like some footage off. And I see this big man come over, Liam Giuliano with his big feet, and he's like, yoinks out me. What? He yoinks out my SD card reader. Like, he's like, oh, I need that. I'm like, oi! Like, I'd never got so mad at Liam. Like, literally halfway through the transfer, just yoinks. He yoinks out my SD reader. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like slightly laughing because I also found it really funny at the same time because I was imagining doing it to you and I would have got fucking decked. But I was like, oi. And you're like, oi, were you transferring something? I'm like, yes, I was halfway through transferring something. That's my perspective.
Right. Okay,
Well,
Liam, explain.
You know, it's actually that's spot on. Exactly what happened. Like that is true. But from my perspective, you had your hard drive plugged in on one side,
Yeah.
and then you had an SD card in your SD card slot.
Yeah.
And then you also had that little one, like the micro SD card reader with a little micro SD card, which I didn't see.
Yeah.
So in my mind, you were just transferring from the SD card into the main hard drive. And I saw it. I saw it like going from like 7 gig of 20 gigabytes transferring. And I was like, I was in a funny mood. I was like, I'm just going to go rip it out. Like, obviously it's not going to do anything because he's transferring from the SD card, but I'm going to go take the micro SD card reader just to like fuck with him and like make you go like, oh, what? But then realize that I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So I walk up and I see that there's a micro SD card reader. I rip it out. I go, oh yeah. And then I look at your screen and then it goes like error, like transfer files stopped. And I'm like, oh fuck. And then I look at you looking at me like, what the fuck?
Why the fuck would you do that?
And then I realized I didn't even say anything. And I realized in that moment, I was thinking, Mike has just seen me come up and rip this out of him. He doesn't know that I've done it as a joke. He doesn't know that I thought that it was not. He just thinks I've ripped it out mid-transfer. So I'm just like standing there like feeling so bad. I'm like, oh,
fuck. There's nothing you can do, right? You just got to cop the roast.
It's like, it's the worst feeling. It's like when you fucking accidentally like step on someone's pet and like it yelps. And like when everyone, or like you accidentally like fucking knock over a little child and the parents are just like, what the fuck?
Oh,
Yeah,
fuck. I've done that at the
bad,
skate park.
Yeah, like one of those
skate
moments.
park. And like, I actually didn't even do anything. Like, I was like ready to drop in. And this other kid was on the other side from me, like about to drop in. He's on his scooter, and I'm like, I'm literally about to go, but then it says, see that he's going to go. And this is like this is the biggest bowl it can be, right? And I was like, this kid's like, he's like, it looks like he's like 6 or 7. Like, I don't know why. And his dad's just like over there sitting on his phone.
I was there, bro.
Were you there? Yeah.
This is like,
his dad's just sitting there on his phone. And I'm like, dude, like this kid does not look like he's ready to drop into like the
Holy
biggest
shit.
fucking bowl or whatever.
I watched this.
Right. And I'm like I'm on the other side. So I watch him. He's about to go. I'm about to go. And I'm like, oh shit, I guess he's going to go. And then he's like halfway through like his drop in. And then he looks up at me. Like, have you seen, remember watching Looney Tunes? And like, they're like standing there, like they're going to free fall. And they're just standing there in midair. And they look down and they look back at the camera and they blink twice. And they fall down. That's like literally what happened. This kid like is like about to go forward. Looks up at me, sees that I'm about to go, then I stop, obviously, and then he literally just free falls like it's like a 3 meter drop. Like it's a big fucking bowl.
God.
And just bang, like straight down, like flat on. Like luckily he had a helmet on, but it like definitely hit his chin and his face, and like just fell onto his scooter. And then like it's like when kids fall over, they like have a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
And then they start crying.
Yeah.
So I heard that and I'm like, oh, fuck. So I'm about to like go down. The dad gets up and he's like, did you push him? I'm like, what? Why? Like, it's not my fault. Like, why are you looking at me? And then he jumps down. He was all right. The kid was fine. Like, kids are just invincible at that age. They just somehow can just jump from Eureka Sky Deck and just be fine. Like,
survive,
Yeah. So he was fine. Like, obviously just, in a bit of shock. But, that was completely different to what you were saying. I just wanted to tell the story.
No, it's a good story.
I wasn't at fault.
No, it's
but I felt like
feeling.
I was.
Yeah.
I felt because I was like,
because you witnessed the whole thing.
I witnessed the whole thing and I couldn't really do much.
No.
And like, I don't want to pick up someone else's kid like in front of them. It's a bit weird. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. It's just, you feel so bad and you're just like, fuck, like I can't do anything.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, that is rough. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of when I think I was like, we were all there at your house. And I think we were like changing rims or something on your W. And like, I was fucking like, this was at night as well. And I was fucking ruined. But I was just like trying my best to like help out as I can. And then I remember like, there was like, because you know how there's lights on top of your garage?
Mm.
And like sometimes when you have the garage door open, it blocks it, right?
Mm.
Yeah, and I remember I was like, oh, there's like barely any light here. Why don't I just close the garage door to let some more light in, right? And I was like, as I like press the garage door to go close it, like both of you were like, wait, bro, what is so like, and then like I look at the garage door, it's like closing onto the wing. I'm like, holy fuck! So I quickly pressed the and like stopped it. It didn't go in the wing. Luckily,
yeah.
I was like, I'm so sorry, bro. I'm pretty tired, but I just wanted to make sure there was more light. I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, just be careful next time. I'm like, fuck.
I remember that.
That one, like, I remember that very clear. I was like, fuck, I got to be careful. I got to with that shit.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you just like, you're trying to be helpful, but you just make it
worse.
You make it
worse. Yeah.
I do remember that specifically. Like, I'm sure that would have.
Yeah, I felt
like,
so bad.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
It's the worst feeling. Like,
it's bad.
I remember
like
doing something to you as well. You were cooking rice and I'd never cooked rice before.
Oh, yeah.
I just walk over to check. I'm trying to help. And I walk over to Liam's rice and just take the lid off. And it just deflates. And I just fuck the rice immediately. And you're like, I'm like, my hand's on it. And you're like, no. And I like lift it up. And like, it's already too late. It's already too late. And I'm like holding the pan, looking at Liam. And I'm like, what?
All the steam's just gone out.
Yeah. And you're like, dude, you just fucking ruined the rice. And I'm like, what? No, surely not. I'm like trying to fix the fucking deflated rice. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, it's all good, man. Just don't do it again.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Because like the way I cooked it was like, you know how you have to leave the lid on.
Yeah.
And
it's like towards the end of cooking the rice,
Yeah.
you just use the residual steam to
Exactly.
cook it. Yeah.
Because otherwise, like you essentially turn the saucepan into like a steamer.
Yeah.
And when you take the steam off, it literally just ruins it all because then there's no steam left to cook it. And I was just like, for fuck's sake. But it was just too late. I couldn't communicate it fast enough. It was just one of those moments.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, it's like, it's just rice.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't matter. But I learned.
Yeah. You
That's the
learned.
thing. Like, it's so scarring in
Yeah.
your mind that I'm never going to walk over to someone's pots and pans again, just start lifting up
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
or whatever. Like, you got to ask first.
Speaking of scarring in the minds, I've got something that I want to open up on the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought it today. It's pretty funny. It's
Right.
pretty silly, but I just
Go
wanted to
for
see I wanted to try this for the potty. It's pretty
Alright.
stupid.
I'm curious to see what this is.
All right.
Oh, I have no idea.
All I can think of is JZX 100 parts. But
Because I saw this package before and I thought it was like an
Oh.
ice pack for something because it's wrapped in a towel. It's like a thin rectangular box. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I bought this at the shops today. Pretty funny.
is it a game?
I don't know. Open it. For anyone who can't see, it's just like a small rectangular box that I've wrapped in a tea towel so the boys can't see.
That's exactly what I said.
You want me to open it?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't
literally
here.
said that
Oh,
before.
okay.
It's just one.
Yeah, just open it.
Oh my fuck.
Speaking of trauma.
Fuck's sake.
Authentic Turkish delights. That is trauma. I didn't like Turkish delights to begin with. I never liked them, to be honest. I don't really get what the hype was. But since going to Turkey and getting robbed, I hate Turkish delights now. I hate them. You can know. I don't even want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know
God
what the
damn
problem
it.
is? I actually liked Turkish Delight growing up, but now every time I look at this, I'm like, because we did get Turkish Delight in Turkey, obviously, and this actually reminds me of like a little story as well.
Yeah.
I was there with like my bag full of Turkish Delight, and then like these two little kids come up to me, obviously, like, and then they're like begging for some Turkish Delights. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm
Please
happy.
give me that Turkish delight.
Yeah, I'm like, there's just like two little kids there, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, your kids, like, fine, whatever. Just have some Turkish Delight, right? And then my mum comes over and she holds out her hand. I'm like, what the fuck? You want Turkish Delight as well? I'm like, I guess, right? It's like, fuck, all right. It's like, I mean, like, granted, it's probably like 3 lira as well. It's like a couple of cents. Like, I'm like, okay, fine. Just have some. Like, I just didn't expect her to also come up to me asking for Turkish Delight. And then it sort of also puts into perspective as well, just like how rough they have it over there.
Yeah.
Like, if you're
Yeah.
a mother over there with children and you're asking for Turkish Delight, like, man, that's like, that is not good.
It was rough. And that's the thing. Like, we actually got stopped on the street the other day and by this guy called Rooker, and he's a portrait photographer, and he took photos of me and Liam, which is the first time we ever like did like a
was cool.
model photo shoot, and we modeled together for his photos, which
Did
was
you
fun.
see them?
Nah.
He posted them on his Instagram.
Oh, really? No, I haven't
cool.
seen it. I was supposed to message him. But shout out to
Rooker.
Rooker. What's his photography page? Anyway, I was talking to him about like Turkey, and because he's told us that he went to Oakland and was carrying his camera, which he put like black tape over Canon and like the model and stuff because it's so rough out there. And he was carrying his camera in like a brown paper shopping bag. And anytime he saw like a cool street shot or portrait or whatever, he would shoot it like quickly and then put his camera back in the bag because, you know,
Right, yeah.
obviously it's just dangerous as fuck. And it's the same with Turkey and Istanbul, which is, well, it literally happened to us. We did get robbed and it is really dangerous there. We heard gunshots going off and there's a lot of poverty. There's also a lot of rich. There's a lot of everything. It's one of the most densely populated cities in the world, and which means there is so much to photograph. So as street photographers, it is you really have to be in it to capture it, which was what we were trying to do. unfortunately, the trip came to a bit of a shorter end than we wanted it to be. But I really one day would love to go back and try it again and do it a bit more like safer in some regard.
Yeah.
Like get a bit more security for our gear or however we're supposed to do it. But
yeah, just be a bit more prepared for the just for our safety. Yeah.
Exactly. But at the same time, like that's what's so awesome about like street photography. And that's what I get gravitated a lot towards that style of photography where it's just like rough and it's pretty hardcore. It's not just like your average walking around the streets. Like you're really capturing, you know, the roughness of the city and stuff. And it's like in those photos, you can see it translates, you know, to how hard people have it there. And photography is like sort of like documenting that sort of stuff. It's an interesting sort of job because the photo is going to elicit a lot of emotions for a lot of different people, depending on who's seeing it or what you're actually photographing.
Yeah.
There's a really famous war photographer called James Nightway, which I remember researching when I was in school, and he literally would go out to like, you know, some really hardcore places of the world that were in a lot of warfare, and he would photograph like, you know, really fucked up things like kids holding RPGs and like, or kids like even playing off like the tanks and stuff. Like that's their playground. Yeah. It's like, it's like so diverse what you can do with your photography. There's so many different avenues you can go down. So like, yeah, I am sort of really interested to like, that sort of side of photography where like you photograph and you're getting the behind the scenes, or like you're not even really getting behind the scenes, like you're in the first person action of it and you're like documenting that. That sort of interests me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
that like, I think going back to like that type of street photography as well, sometimes like, I don't know, as photographers, you get caught up with composition so much and trying to find like in this quote unquote aesthetically pleasing shot that you forget to actually take photos of what's actually happening around you rather than like, cause you know, like, us as Melbourne street photographers, like it's fun taking photos of trams. You get like you get the cool rails and like all the symmetry that comes along with it. But what the fuck even is a tram? It's just a mode of transport sitting on some rails. Like, is that really like that fun to look at? Aside from the fact that it's aesthetically pleasing, like why not capture something that's actually happening in the moment where maybe you have like a group of friends doing a really fun activity or something. You can maybe try and capture that actual vibe that they're experiencing. Or like maybe you have someone who's in a bad place, like dealing with their emotions, like sitting on the ground. Like imagine capturing that instead, and like people can look at it and maybe figure out a way to piece together their own narrative based on their experiences and like and understand, like try to understand that photo use their eyes to like view it. It's just like, it's just interesting to think about. Like that's definitely something that I'm trying more to understand. It's like, it's not all about composition, and
there's a lot of story behind it all. And like, sorry, excuse me. That's what's really interesting sometimes about photography is that your photo can be interpreted so many different ways, and someone like the viewer gets to make up the story of what could be happening there. I watched this like little mini series recently of this guy who used to be homeless, but now he's found a good place for himself, and he goes to, like around New York. Specifically in this series, he was going to like the underground, like
train tunnels. Yeah,
where the train tunnels were and stuff. Yeah. And there's like a whole group of like type of, I can't remember what the name of them was called, but there's a type, like there's some people who lived down there, and he was documenting this one dude who found like an old sewage hatch which has been like decommissioned or whatever, and that was like his house. Like he'd converted into his house. He was an ex-electrician from somewhere from Brazil who'd come over to America and tapped into like the network's line or whatever. Oh, so he got his own electricity, ran it back. Just free and he had a computer in there that he had found and fixed up with hard drives, keyboard, like full on like little den for himself.
That's crazy.
So cyberpunk, like Watch Dogs.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But like he just documented sort of that. And it's just like, there's just so much out there that you can shoot and go for. And I don't know, like it's so diverse, and you just simply don't have enough time on this planet to document it all.
No, that's why it's good to do what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Yeah. There's just even like little certain things. Like I remember we talked about this briefly. Like don't listen to like little fucking stupid rules. Like don't listen to like little rules that just tell you like, oh, you can't. And like, oh, you know, you have to like, can't follow like every single rule. Like even if it's metaphorically or physically, like
it's from Jordan Pedersen.
Yeah.
Like, he talks about it a lot. What he says is pretty much don't listen or don't follow stupid rules or dumb rules.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's certain rules in society that need to be here to have the order of society. So people don't just go around shooting each other.
No, of course.
But like if there's a little fence there and says trespassers will be prosecuted, but you just want to walk over there to take a dope photo. Come on,
man.
Like,
I agree with that. Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like we're there taking a photo. Like
you're on Earth. You're on planet Earth. What do you mean? Like I was saying to you the other day. Like
we're not doing anything wrong. You're not trying to vandalize. You're not trying to break and enter. Like that's a different story. Like
don't listen to dumb rules.
Exactly. And you can even take that like metaphorically as well. Like, you know, with photography, you don't have to follow every rule. There even really is no like that many rules. But like going back to what you were saying about aesthetic shots, the only reason we want to do that and shoot aesthetic things is because of Instagram, really.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know, like that's what really fucked it for everything. Like we only like shooting trams and buildings and because we know it does well on Instagram. Like I may not actually genuinely love doing that all the time, but I know that's just like going to be a dope shot for that platform.
Yeah.
But necessarily what is it that actually has more of a story? What can I actually shoot that has that if someone was like, you know, someone was to look at this picture, there is just so much more story in it. Like rather than, just a fucking piece
like
of public transport.
Symmetry or like, oh, I need to have this rule of, I 100% agree.
definitely.
I think that's what we're all realizing in this new way, like new perspective that we're thinking about photography. It's not, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered and perfectly framed and in focus and no motion blur. Like all the imperfections is actually what tells a story. Cause we as humans are imperfect, which is what gives us our individuality. So like, even like going back to that, about not necessarily having the most amazing composition, but more so focusing on telling a story through your photos.
Yeah.
Me and Limon, we were shopping the other day. Remember when we were on Chapel Street shopping? There was this fucking amazing street photo. I should have taken a photo on my iPhone, but just one of those moments where you don't commit to it and you just walk past and you're like, nah.
Enjoy the moment.
Sort of, capture it with your eyes. But if I had my camera, I would have shot it. But it was this guy. I'm not sure if he was homeless or just like in a really bad spot. Like he was very roughed up, and he was just on the floor on his hands and knees looking like in the middle of the walkway. And there was a bunch of lottery tickets that had all been scratched up and he was just looking at them all and he looked just devastated. And I was like, wow, there is so much story going on. Like, obviously I felt so bad for him, but I was also like, this is a story that I'd love other people to see. Cause it was just amazing.
It was crazy to see because like, fuck, like what would have this person had to experience to get to this point where he has a whole bunch of lottery tickets in front of him and he's just kneeling on the ground. In public. Like I'm just like, damn, like you gotta be like going through something to
it's pretty rough
to do that. And it's like it would have been cool to capture that moment because that would have been his story that we could have seen.
I think it's our duty, It's like photographers and creatives, like I think it's like you could obviously think of it as like, oh, why would you take a photo of this guy? Like I think that would be naive to think about it like that. As like, oh, you shouldn't take photos of him. He's clearly in a bad place. But I think what we actually should do is use our skills as street photographers who can capture this emotion and tell this story. Like it's our duty to photograph this stuff and
to document
it so other people can see it for years and years to go on.
Well, it's like, you know, it's easy to hate a face and not a brand. So like someone could look at you and be like, oh, why are you doing that? But then not look at the entire news corporation and be like, well, who the fuck is documenting all the other bad shit that happens on our earth? Like there's bad shit that happens everywhere. There's stories that happen everywhere. Like, but there always at some point has to be like, even back in the day before there even were cameras, someone had to paint it. Someone had to write it down. Like, even though it may not have been like nice to do, but like it's good to document these things for, you know, to look at or to create your own story or just, I don't know, whatever it needs to be. Like, needs to be someone behind a camera to photograph or to document or to film or whatever it may be. Like even if they're not like the nicest things in the world, but they still get documented.
Yeah. Like
It's a neutral emotion towards it
yeah, I guess. And
when you're doing it.
because I think it'll be good as well for other people to see it and be able to empathize. Empathize, is that the correct word? Yeah, empathize with the situation. Like, because once you've documented it and you're presenting it to the world, other people can look at it and be like, oh, like they create their own narrative on what they think that person's going through. And they're like, oh, damn, like that sucks that he's going through that. I hope that myself or none of my friends and family or loved ones will ever have to come across this situation. Or like even it could inspire people. It's like, oh, what can I do to make sure that more of this doesn't exist? Like how can I provide to my community and make other people's lives better, not just for myself as well. Like it could be a point of inspiration. It could be a point of a lot of things. And like people can take what they want from it and just like empathize with the situation. I think that's also one of the big things about street photography, because every time I go through like photography books or like look through and see these photos, that's usually what I'm thinking at least. I'm like, oh, damn, like these photos are insane because of how much story they tell and like how it connects us to the real world. So that's usually what I think about when I see some of those photos. So I hope that in the future or like moving forward, I can take photos like that so other people can empathize and understand and be able to continue moving forward.
There used to be a great page on Facebook called Humans in New York or
Yeah.
Humans of New York.
Humans of New York.
Humans of New York, where a street photographer would go out and sit down with the person and basically write down like a little short story or like, of whatever they said to them, and then would take a picture like relating to the story that they told. So whether it was a good person or a bad, or like someone in a bad place or a good place or a family or someone begging or whatever, like they would sit down with them and get the story and then shoot.
Just take a portrait of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so like it sort of reminds me of this Gang Starr lyric, Moment of Truth. Let me think of the exact lyrics. It's like, I know it's like, you may not know the hardships, people don't speak up.
Yeah.
Like, that's why it's good to step back and observe with truth, because we all must meet our moment of truth.
Yeah.
So it's like we're all going through something. Everyone's got something, but like you can't see that. Like if you just saw a portrait of a random person from Humans of New York, you could just look at them and make up your own story. But when you see like what he's documented about them, you're like, wow, like that's so terrible. Like all these things that this.
Well, you
person
might be
had
able to
experience.
relate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like always good to just with your photography, like try and tell that story, but then also when you just meet people in general, always like never judge or be like, oh, this person's like got this, they're lucky. You never know what someone's going through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is why I loved that series. Humans of New York just really makes you think. And it's so powerful, I reckon.
Yeah, he's a really good photographer. And just a really unique idea and a unique way to share your work.
Yeah.
A good way to mix, like, if you're interested in story writing or copywriting, storytelling, whatever, writing in general, and photography. It was like a perfect mix of like,
it's true.
both of those two arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Wow, another existential crisis on
Yeah.
this podcast.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I think we're all maturing as just like individuals, and I can definitely see that within us as we talk, like the way we speak about things, our opinions. I feel like we're solidifying our opinions about things and actually doing things. Like actually not just saying like, I want to do this. We're actually focusing on more of the photography side of things like we've been speaking about.
Yeah.
Not worrying about, am I growing my YouTube? Am I getting more followers? But more so like, oh, I want to tell stories now. This is what I want to do, which is cool to see.
Legit. Well, that's what I was speaking to you about. Who are you?
We're so
close, yeah. Who are you? We literally need a table
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like it's so funny to like sit here and look at you guys.
Yeah, I know. It's good.
It's
to
fun though. I like this.
Yeah.
But
I like this
I
little
was
corner.
speaking to Liam at the lifts the other day, to you,
Yeah.
You.
that like I don't want my YouTube to be like professionalism, like I'm the best, look at me, I'm going to teach you all these things or whatever. Like I really never wanted it to be like that, but maybe some videos have come across like that. But more or less like want my YouTube channel to be like just documenting what I'm figuring out
Yeah.
And like you can see from when I started YouTube like almost 5 years ago now to like now, you could probably, see a good like amount of growth there. Not only between like my work and probably my characteristics as well. And like,
or just who you are as a person.
And I just want I want to keep making YouTube videos like that just to see like the, everlasting growth of like, just my photography journey and like character development as well. And that's like what I'm keen to like work more on is that I want my YouTube channel just to be more documenting my life and what I'm figuring out. And I'll share my tips as much as I can along the way. Instead of just trying to be like a Mr. Know-it-all and trying to stay on top and be like, oh, this is how you like fucking, this is not how you do that. Like,
I don't know.
No one knows how to do it.
There's a billion different ways to do it, just about everything in this
Exactly.
world,
I'm just going to document my shift is just more going to be towards this is the process that I'm like trying to do and what I'm figuring out. And this is what I'm going to document along the way. And anyone's welcome to watch.
Yeah. I think we were speaking about it before, me and Mike, when we got a bagel this morning.
Yeah, nice.
We were saying, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
You're at the bagel shop.
Bagel
routine.
Shop. Oh, no, we're talking about, how did I lose my train of thought?
Brain's a funny place.
Yeah, wait, no, we're at the bagel shop and we were talking about, what were you just talking about? Sorry.
How I want to document more of my own, my own journey.
Yeah, I forgot. Oh no. Okay, I remembered.
Yes.
Go.
As we were talking about how, obviously we've been talking about how we just want to focus on being an artist and being a photographer. I've actually been implementing that. My focus every day when I wake up, I'm thinking about photo shoots now, not trying to make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And counterintuitively, it's so weird. I've just been making more YouTube videos and I've been feeling way better about them because all of a sudden I've just taken all this pressure off myself and I'm like, I can actually make whatever content I want on YouTube. I want to make a video about this and I'm not putting everything into that. I'm actually putting all my focus into my passion and where my heart is telling me, which is photography. And now I'm just making these YouTube videos and I'm having fun with it and I'm inspired now. It's so funny how that works.
It's so funny how it works because literally a few podcasts ago you would have listened and we were down in the dumps trying to figure it out. And the thing that we figured out to get to this stage is that we genuinely stopped caring about trying to make a YouTube video, whether it's you just make one if you feel like that's what you want to do. It's not, we're not putting the emphasis on trying to be YouTubers and making the videos. We're putting it on doing photo shoots and being photographers because that's what we know how to do.
Yeah.
And the YouTube video is the background. That's what happens on the side. The camera, the vlog camera, whatever, is an extension of what's happening, not the full focus.
Yeah.
And so when you stop caring about trying to make it work and you just make it work, that's when it works.
Yeah.
It's but
going back to Dutton Garage.
Who the fuck teaches you that?
But that's the thing, going Dutton's
Get a job.
That's what I learned working in such a high-end place is that, and that's what I've forgotten until literally pretty much now. When we went on that big Euro tour and stuff, and even through lockdown, you forget it honestly feels like a whole nother lifetime ago. But now as the world starts to open up again and we're more active and there's more events happening, I remember that you just have to make things work. You don't have to it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the best. You're not always going to be the best. Nothing in life is perfect. And as soon as you accept that and you just get on with it and you just try and make it work to the best of your ability, you give it your all, like Nonna says.
Yeah.
And then our grandparents just it doesn't matter if, you fail or it does work. All that matters is that you give it 100% of your efforts. You know what I mean? You just give it the best shot that you can because you know if you're doing a shit job.
Yeah.
You know if you can put in more effort. You know the difference between you being exhausted and being lazy.
You can fool other people, but you can't fool yourself.
That's right. And literally my grandparents always said that. It's it doesn't matter if, as my nonno, he's Miguel, it doesn't matter if you win or you fail. You just give it all.
Yeah, it's good. Isn't that? Oh, you want to eat my pasta?
Yeah.
But no, it's so true. There's so much wisdom.
Oh
with,
man,
nonnos and nonnas.
My grandpa, I was sitting down with him at Christmas and I got him to tell me the story of how he came to Australia.
Oh
my God. He was I was so how did you get here? And he goes, I come across from Sicily and I come down 3 months. He doesn't really speak good English, so
Yeah.
I'll translate. He's like, he spends 3 months on this ship and he made friends with this Ukrainian guy who spoke better Italian than him, he says. Like
What?
this Ukrainian dude originally came to Italy to start working and then the war happened. So like he learned Italian there to work because he was in better working conditions at the time for him in Italy. And then war happened there. So they went to Australia and he was on this boat as well. What that my nonno was on.
That is amazing.
And for 3 months, you're on this ship. And I was like, was it a good ship or a big ship? And he was like, yeah, big one, but it was not a good ship. Like this, it would have been like a rickety, like he genuinely did this. This is not like
No.
something
Yeah.
you see in a movie.
Yeah.
Like he genuinely
It
did this.
happened.
And I was like, what was the ride like? Like, was it smooth? And he said it was very smooth up until, and he like would do like the movement with his hands. He said at some point there were some waves where he thought that was going to be it. Like the boat didn't look like it was going to handle it and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and I reckon some of those boats never made it.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Even to this day, like refugee boats, like because it's obviously illegal and like
Yeah.
you have to do it undercover. Like, yeah, you're gambling. It's a gamble,
It's
but
a massive gamble to come here or
Yeah.
to just be on the boat traveling overseas. Crazy.
It's wild. So like,
Actually
yeah,
Crazy.
like speak to your grandparents if they're still around. Like they've got a lot of stories as well. Like, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Like they've lived, you know, like 5 times the life literally of us. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yep.
they got some stories.
Especially during the World War. Like as bad as it sounds, like they lived in terrible times, but the amount of stories that will come from it will be intense.
Exactly.
wisdom. Yeah,
A lot of
definitely.
wisdom.
Definitely a good thing to like just have a chat with some older people and just actually listen to what they have to say because they're not just old people. They're just fucking people like us, but they've just lived for longer.
Exactly.
They're not
Yeah.
like, oh, look at that old guy. Like, he doesn't know anything. Like, nah, they were 25 one day as well.
Yeah.
Just enjoying life. Like, it's fine.
The
Like,
reason why some old people don't say much is because when you get to a certain stage in life, they're probably like, you know what? It's just easier to say nothing and let people figure it out.
Yeah.
they're like, I cannot be fat.
Yeah.
Having
that
this
fucking
conversation.
Exactly. So
stupid 24-year-old deal with yourself.
exactly. So
Yeah.
speak to your grandparents and you'll probably learn something.
Yeah.
And actually
exactly.
listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that all said and done,
Yeah.
speaking about not speaking,
Damn, we spoke for a while.
yeah,
Been an hour and 12 minutes. That is
It's time for
a
us
long
to
time.
stop speaking and for you guys to start thinking.
Lincoln, start
Long
taking
time.
some photos. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's all.
Like,
Start
get
taking
the
some
fuck out
photos
there.
and
Okay,
doing
real
your
quick
life.
before we wrap it up,
Right.
what's your next photo shoot?
Next photo shoot, I'm shooting a 355 Ferrari in the Black Spur.
Beautiful. Oh, that's gonna be sick.
Yeah.
I think we're going to take
that's
some other
nice.
cars out as well. So a
Yeah.
993 red 4S Carrera and a SLS Mercedes as well, also red. So
Oh.
3 red cars up in the
That'll be
Black Spur,
sick.
hopefully.
Definitely bring the
works out.
drone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be
Lamont.
dope.
Looking forward to that.
Me? Nothing concrete yet because I am trying to look for a job. But like probably with the model sometime soon. Just I need to figure out specifics of like date and location and maybe what type of like idea or emotion that I want to capture. But
Yeah.
that's the basic idea. Probably I definitely want to shoot with the model soon.
Shoot some portraits.
Yeah, basically it's portraits. Yeah. What about you?
Awesome. Mine is in 2 days. Got a portrait shoot with Priscilla, who's a model I've shot with heaps of times from Melbourne. And I'm going to go around like Brunswick area.
Dope.
And I want to get some
Nice.
like, it's my first time ever shooting portraits on film.
Sick.
So,
Which
That'll be
film?
sick.
Cine Still 800T
Fuck
with like
yeah.
the nice red halation,
Yep.
grungy night neon, like just real.
Oh, I'm so
emotive
keen to
shit,
see
yeah.
those, man.
That's gonna
Not
be
even
dope.
going to film a YouTube video on it. I'm literally just going to do a photo shoot. I'm going to force myself, even though I think it'd be great content, I'm going to force myself to just be a
Enjoy
photographer.
the shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Sick.
Sounds dope. Right. Well, that is the end of this podcast, and you can go ahead and return this social light, get a refund for that.
Yeah. No. We'll eat them.
Yeah, we'll eat them. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to that sort of stuff. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio.
I swear to God, though, if you're listening on iHeartRadio, you can just get in the bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're listening to iHeartRadio, go take a trip to Turkey or something.
Yeah.
Don't come back.
I hope you get
Yeah.
robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
iHeartRadio, just There's no other way to say it. Just leave.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
It's costing us money.
so brutal. I don't know why we do this, but it's
Oh, it's the
It's
best.
Because it
tradition.
started off
I love
Stitcher,
it.
but then they actually got rid of Stitcher. Hopefully because they heard us roast
Yeah,
it so
probably.
hard.
Yeah.
They got bullied into
Who
taking it
knows?
off. But then we had to make fun of something, and so
Yeah.
iHeartRadio
So, yeah.
is the next thing that wastes money.
yeah,
So
exactly.
there you go. There's that if you want to listen to. And then what else? Apple Podcasts. Make sure you give us 5 stars if you really like the podcast.
Helps us out.
Yep. If you have any questions, make sure to send them at betweentheframespodcast@gmail.com. So that's any questions, any advice that you want us to answer, and just about anything. Doesn't have to be always photography related, just like anything, and we'll give our shit advice on it.
Yes. Anything,
Yes.
any topics you want us to speak about. We really want to hear what you have to say. We want this podcast to be not just us talking, but also we want to hear what you, the listeners, want us to talk about as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. And also you can go check out our Discord as well, the Creative Society. There's also
Yeah.
a section there that you can also give us podcast questions if you want. And with that said and done, let's just
wrap
hang
it up there.
and head off. So
All right.
goodbye, everyone. Thanks for
See you
listening.
later.
Thank
Catch you
you.
next time.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Fuck you.
That was a good potty. I was in that. I was
I feel like we're getting better at the potties every time
Yeah, that's good.
If they're going for longer, that means they're good.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even realize we were speaking for over an hour when I looked over.
Yeah, because usually like I try my best to fill the content until 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And then from there on, you just you can end it at any time. It's just whatever happens.
You just let it flow.
Yeah, you just continue letting it flow.
So-
That was good.
Alright, what if we keep this all in and then we come over here to Bella? Hey Bella. Hello. Hello. Good girl. Good girl.